On to this now. President Cyril Ramaphosa has thrown his weight behind the World Health Organization, indirectly taking on the U.S. President Donald Trump. Trump has threatened to cut funding to what he calls the China-centric Global Health Organization. In his capacity as the African Union Chairperson, Ramaphosa commended the WHO, extending his support to the body. But where does this leave South Africa-US relations? To discuss this, I'm joined by the international relations expert, that's Anthony van Nieuwkerk, and he joins us via Skype now. Thanks for your time, Anthony. Firstly, let's start with that very first question in that intro. Where do South Africa-US relations stand at this point, or are they not affected at all?
Yeah, good morning, Colin. It's an intriguing question because everybody is focusing on the COVID-19 fight back campaign, and you don't want to hear news about complex international matters that might divert attention away from what we're doing at home. Our relationship with America is very important for economic and political reasons. It's a giant that you can't avoid. We must have a stable relationship with the world's biggest economy and military power. So don't mess with them. See where you can find synergy. And indeed, we've got a stable trading relationship with America. Politically, we might not agree and sit around the same fire, particularly not under the Trump administration. He has a fight of his own with China. China-America relations are quite disturbed, are delicate. It's been worsened by this COVID-19 pandemic. Trump blames the Chinese for this and that. The Chinese are fighting back. And in the middle of all of this, the World Health Organization, which has become a small but significant player in steering the fight back campaign, has become embroiled in a fight. I mean, the WHO is quite close to the Chinese and every other nation that is seeing very high or large numbers of victims. And Trump has a personal issue with the director of the WHO because he's not criticizing China. He's not saying this is a China virus. In fact, the WHO is trying very hard to work with China around lessons learned. So when Trump criticizes the director, saying you are China-centric and you are taking sides, the man is an Ethiopian. He's an African. He's one of us. So what happens is the AU, in terms of African Union politics, they sort of works together to support the guy in this nonsense with Trump. And now the AU has taken quite a big position. Cyril, our president, is the chair of the African Union this year. And so he is leading the African, let's say, a continental position on COVID-19.
Yeah, let me ask you this question. On Wednesday, a very emotional yet resolute Tedros Ghebreyesus came out and opened up for the first time, saying that he had endured racist attacks from countries who clearly have not handled this pandemic well from the start. How would you say he has done thus far in the handling of this issue?
Yeah. You know, Toli, I must point out that he's doing well. He's doing well. Unexpectedly, because a couple of years ago, you will recall, Africa went through this crisis in West Africa with the Ebola virus, requiring international cooperation because it was devastating for West Africa. Many people died. And the WHO didn't play a quick enough role, and they didn't coordinate the international response very well. But since then, the organization has learned. And I must say, you know, in international relations, whenever you find an African at the head of the organization, whether it was Kofi Annan, the UN, I mean, that's the highest position really, or the WHO, or I can think UN Women, one of our own, is chairing that particular international body. They do endure critique and snide remarks from the West, from European countries. And of course, the Trump administration has, you know, he is infamous for saying that he doesn't think much of the African continent. So the WHO is on the back foot under the leadership of an Ethiopian when it comes to the Trump administration. But I must say, on balance, we should all be proud of the WHO and the central role that it is now playing in driving the agenda forward in terms of fighting this battle.
Yeah, just finally and very briefly for me, Anthony, the US president, it's no secret that he's a very temperamental person. The chairperson of the AU has now come out very starkly different to his response on the work of the WHO. We know that most of Africa, they rely on US funding for certain programs, relief programs that is. Might that sway Donald Trump to start squeezing some of these countries on the funds?
Yeah. Golly, I hope not. I hope that sane minds prevail and that enough of the Trump administration will realize that this kind of personal outburst, this very unpleasant style of politicking, is not doing the international community any favors. And let me end by saying Africa is a large continent, 1 billion people. The world cannot afford for the COVID-19 outbreak, to ravage the continent. It's in everybody's interest to work with the WHO. And I think this issue, Trump's administration will put it on the side because there are bigger issues to fight about.
Anthony van Niekerk, thank you very much for giving us your time and analyzing the US-Africa relations to a broader level.